98 pounds. That's pretty much the dumbbell Eddie Hall uses to warm up. Now here he is at 180 and 190. Now the kid looks like a tank these days, but he still feels like a first generation Fiat Panda inside of him. What's up folks, it's Uranus, we're in Brussels, welcome to another video. So today we'll be talking about an incredible transformation that I found some time ago on Reddit about a man that was unfortunately born with Kallmann Syndrome. It's a genetic disease that occurs in 1 in 50,000 men. Basically, these guys drew the genetic short straw and a part of their brain never activates properly, and in return they lack a sense of smell and their pituitary gland is broken. Now the pituitary is super important for the production of male sex hormones, and as a result these guys unfortunately suffer from very delayed puberty or a lack of total puberty at all. This is what our man Danny looked like at 19 years old. Sounds quite familiar, right? I already made a couple of videos about a man that went through a similar situation but only started treatment at 27 years old, Brandon Westphal. And then there's me from Brussels. The similarities between our guy here and my stories are actually quite insane. I also know what it feels like when you're 20 years old and your balls still haven't dropped, but you would not believe what this kid looks like today. All right. C'est parti. So Danny May was 19 years old where he was unfortunately diagnosed with Kallmann Syndrome. He still looked like a 12 or 13-year-old boy. It's quite shocking in a world where physical appearance is so dominant these days. He must have been bullied a lot at school and he probably was ID checked everywhere he went. I bet he's feeling quite awkward these days when he's looking back at his progress pictures. And trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Now imagine going to Tomorrowland with your friends at 19 years old and they refuse to let you in because they don't believe your age. Or imagine going to the bar and they freaking ID check you and they put you outside because they think you're a child, or you're going to the restaurant and you're receiving the child's menu in front of you because you look much younger than what you're supposed to look like. This is what he looks like 6 years later at 25. He's been on treatment since he was 20 years old, so it's actually 5 years on treatment. That is one hell of an impressive glow up. Now I can imagine a significant amount of androgens were used in this transformation. HRT, hormonal replacement therapy, is a godsend for people that actually need it. Now let's look together at this fascinating story. For me it's quite a personal one because I went through the same shit as he went through it, even though I only started my treatment at 26. But I know it takes a lot of guts and balls to share these kinds of pictures and stories. So let's take a look. So hi there everybody. I was born with a rare genetic disorder called Kallmann Syndrome, 1 in 50,000, a disorder of the pituitary gland that prevents me from producing testosterone and also caused me to suffer from anosmia and hypogonadism. I was not diagnosed with Kallmann Syndrome until I was 19 years old, and at that point I was told that I had the T levels of that of a young boy and the bone density of a 12-year-old. I was also told that I had never entered puberty and I had developed 0 primary and secondary sexual characteristics. Basically, at the time of the diagnostics, biologically speaking, I was a pre-pubertal 10 to 12-year-old boy. Being diagnosed only at 19 years old means that he saw all his classmates, all his friends, probably his siblings and so on, go through puberty right in front of his freaking nose, and he was left out. Imagine the mental impact of that. He was diagnosed at 19, but he only started his puberty, he only started his treatment when he was 20 years old. Since his brain never produced any LH or FSH hormone, he probably had a complete lack of body hair and facial hair. He probably still had a high-pitched voice, he had a childlike body shape, and he had underdeveloped genitals, and also he was suffering from osteoporosis, as he said. Now that's the physical side, but imagine the mental side. I mean, his self-confidence must have been ground freaking zero. Life must have sucked, and I can tell you that. I began TRT age 20, receiving 200 milligrams every 3 weeks via intramuscular injections. But as my treatment continued, I found that my levels remained relatively low and have only entered a healthy levels in the last month, as I have started receiving 250 milligrams every 2 weeks. What kind of shit protocol is this? 200 milligrams every 3 weeks means that he started from 0 testosterone into his body to pinning 200 milligrams of testosterone at once. So basically from flatline to from nothing to extremely high to back to nothing the last week of his protocol. Completely insane. That will put you on a roller coaster, both emotional and physical. Unfortunately, most doctors don't know shit about this. The condition has also left me with social anxiety disorder, body dysmorphia, and a quite complex form of depression. Due to my poor mental health, I've always been single, had minimal experience with girls, only ever dating for short periods due to me getting caught up in my own head, and had never really accepted myself as good enough for a relationship. I take SSRIs daily, and I am about to attend behavioral cognitive therapy for the first time. My depression medication and general anxiety disorder has also left me with a bad case of GERD, so I subsequently suffer from a lot of stomach discomfort and have been taking prescription for antacids a couple of days ago. It sounds like even though he was diagnosed at 19, which is still relatively a young age, basically he was still a teenager. Of course, it's a lot later than what it's supposed to be, but it's still relatively young. The impact on his mental life was insane, was actually huge. And I really feel for this guy from the bottom of my freaking heart, because I know what he went through. I know what it is to be the awkward guy in the room and to be left out. I was only diagnosed when I was 26 years old. I've now been on treatment for more than 9 years, and I can tell you shit is still difficult every freaking day. Now I know on my side, nobody ever tried to freaking help me, and I was almost 26 years old when I had to drag my own ass into a doctor's office and tell him that my dick didn't work and was still the size of a cocktail sausage. Now I want to know, why was he only diagnosed at 19 years old? Did the doctor brush him off as a late bloomer or something? Because that happened to me too. About the body dysmorphia and the SSRIs or the antidepressants that he's taking, let me show you guys what he looks like these days. Now what a freaking transformation. He's completely different. It's night and day. He looks like a rock now compared to before, yet what he sees in the mirror is not what we see. He says he's on antidepressants and he doesn't consider himself good enough to be in a relationship with a woman. And our minds are really our biggest enemies, guys. No matter what people tell me, when I look in the mirror on most days, what I still see is a scared, obese, underdeveloped person. As negative as this post has begun, one thing has continuously kept me on track and has been my constant, and this is fitness. I live for fitness nowadays. It's one place I can go, put my earphones in and just drift away from the real world while attacking the exercise with my bundled up anger. It is my escape. Merde. Okay, don't get me wrong. Getting up and ready with depression is almost impossible some days. GERD makes eating large meals almost always painful and uncomfortable, and I don't get a lot of sleep because my nights are consumed with loneliness that keeps me up long into the twilight hours. I also have suffered some severe panic attacks and mental breakdowns, 2 of which I have been hospitalized for. But among all these bumps, in one thing that is certain is no matter what is knocking me down that day, I will be in the gym grinding away, showing the world I am still here, digging in deep and trying to reshuffle the hand I was dealt. I understand this man better than he knows, because fitness saved my life and continues doing so every single day. It is probably the only place on this world where for 1 hour his mind and body can completely align and he can just destroy the weights and feel good. His fitness progress is amazing, by the way. I mean, he started out at 98 pounds. That's pretty much the dumbbell Eddie Hall uses to warm up. Now here he is at 180 and 190. Now, the kid looks like a tank these days, but he still feels like a first generation Fiat Panda inside of him. The panic attacks, I completely understand. Guys, I have to say this, I broke my girlfriend's night table the very first time I made a YouTube video just out of stress and anxiety. I have moments where I really cannot think because the stress levels and the anxiety reach levels that are just insane. It's always a fight against yourself. Now from the post I understand that he's 25 and he has very little experience with women, and at 25 personally I think that's a good thing, because a woman meets you, you're 25, You look like this and you have literally 0 on your counter, she's going to think that you're a freaking unicorn, my man. You're in for a treat. In the end, it doesn't really matter when you start, right? I was 28 when I had sex for the first time, and before that I never thought I would be sexual in my life. I just never thought it would happen for me. Now, I was 28 when I grabbed ass for the first time, and now I have a fulfilling sex life. I never thought that would happen. Everything you ever wanted is on the other side of that fear barrier, and trust me, there's a lot of curvy things you want to grab on the other side of that barrier. Even though my journey is far from over and I still have a lot of things to achieve, I just wanted to post my progress in this one area to maybe inspire people that you can change yourself regardless of your genetics, your situation and the way you're feeling. It's maybe not the success story the world loves to see, where everything has turned out great and as planned for me, but it's a realistic success story. A single achievement among an ever-growing list of failings my life has produced so far. A success that makes me believe that a better tomorrow might be around the corner. I would also like to use this post to raise awareness for this condition and other types of conditions in the same vein, because although I may not be dying, it is a condition that has done its best to destroy every fiber of me and seems to shrugged off by the medical community. But anyway, less of the violence and more details about how I achieved my gains. So our man can deadlift 400 pounds, he can squat 300 pounds, and he can bench press 230. He has an overhead press of 130. He's 5'5" or 167 centimeters. So please, my man, keep at it. Your fitness progress is quite amazing. Perhaps he used a little bit more testosterone as he should have from time to time, but who gives a fuck anyway, and who doesn't, right? Personally, I would like to thank Danny for sharing this story. It takes a lot of balls to share these kinds of personal story, and he's a big inspiration. This post was actually put on Reddit quite some time ago, but it never received an update. Danny, if you ever see this, I hope in the meantime you found your little Czech girl. Guys, leave me a comment, let me know what you thought about the video, about Danny's story. Subscribe to my channel if you like my content, give me a thumbs up, and I'll catch you on the next one. Uranus out.